Welcome to Swirl AI Search, the podcast that dives deep into the world of enterprise AI search. Discover how to unlock the value hidden within your internal data and accelerate your journey to actionable insights. Let's cut through the noise and find out how you can get the most out of your internal information. As befitting a podcast about AI, this episode was created with the help of Notebook LM. Please enjoy the Swirl AI Search podcast.
Okay, let's unpack this. You know that feeling, right? When the answer to your work problem has to be somewhere in your company's systems, but it feels like finding a needle in a haystack.
Oh, absolutely. Maybe
Yeah.
it's buried in emails or some cloud drive or a database you can't even access easily.
Exactly, or, locked away in some PDF, no one can search
Yeah.
properly. All that time just searching. It's such a drain on productivity.
It really is. And it highlights a massive challenge for pretty much every organization today.
Mm,
How do you actually use all the information you have scattered everywhere? That search time. It's a real cost.
right. And that brings us neatly to our topic for this deep dive, a different way of thinking about AI search called zero ETL.
Zero ETL.
Yeah. And maybe you're thinking, ETL, what's that? Well, it stands for extract, transform, load.
Mhm.
It's kind of the, let's say, traditional way companies have handled getting data ready for analysis. You pull it out, extract,
Yep.
clean it up, standardize it, transform,
Right.
and then load it into like a central data warehouse or something.
And that process, ETL, while it's been around forever and useful for certain things, it's really starting to become a major bottleneck, especially when we talk about AI for internal search.
Okay, so our mission today is to figure out why that traditional ETL is kind of tripping up AI search efforts.
Exactly. And how this zero ETL idea offers a different path. We'll be looking specifically at Swirl AI search as a really good example of this philosophy.
And we've looked at some materials explaining zero ETL AI search and, how Swirl actually puts it into practice.
That's right.
So let's really dig into the problems with this traditional ETL approach first. I mean, on the surface, getting all your data in one place sounds logical, maybe?
It sounds logical, but ETL really came from a simpler time data-wise. Think structured databases, maybe running reports overnight, batch processing.
Okay, yeah, not today's world.
Not at all. Today, data is everywhere. Different clouds, tons of apps, all sorts of formats, structured, unstructured documents, emails, Slack messages, even Zoom recordings. It's complex, and the sheer amount of unstructured stuff is exploding. ETL just wasn't designed for that kind of real-time, messy reality.
And businesses need answers now, don't they? Not tomorrow, not next week. Waiting for some big ETL job to finish. That just doesn't work anymore.
Doesn't cut it.
Mhm.
And people mention it can take months, literally months, to build out these ETL pipelines in the first place. That's a huge delay before you even get the insights you need.
Months just to get set up. Wow.
Plus, there are serious security and compliance worries every time you copy and move data around for ETL.
You're creating another potential weak spot.
Precisely. Another copy, another place to secure, another potential compliance headache depending on what data you're moving and where.
Okay, so besides being slow and maybe insecure, what are the other practical downsides? You mentioned the setup time.
Right, the lengthy setup. Then there's the whole data duplication issue. You load everything into a central warehouse. Now you've got copies.
Which means more storage costs, and trying to keep everything in sync must be a nightmare.
It's a huge challenge, especially for large organizations. Synchronization errors, data getting stale,
Yeah.
it adds a lot of operational overhead, constant maintenance, fine-tuning the pipelines.
So, yeah, it sounds like instead of helping us access data, traditional ETL is often just getting in the way. It's complex, it's slow, it's expensive.
It's becoming an obstacle.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where this zero ETL AI search concept really shines. It's a totally different mindset.
How so? What's the core difference?
Instead of forcing companies through that whole extract, transform, load process, duplicating data, indexing it, reshaping it,
Which, as we said, is a huge project.
a huge project.
Hmm.
Zero ETL AI search basically says, leave the data where it is. We'll bring the AI to the data.
Oh, okay. So the AI connects to the different sources directly in their original spots without needing to move or copy everything first?
Exactly. No need to reconfigure your whole data environment. The data stays put.
That sounds much simpler
Yeah.
and presumably faster.
Much faster to get started.
Yeah.
And the benefits are pretty clear. Instant access, better security because you're not moving data around, and it scales more easily without managing those complex pipelines.
And Swirl AI search is an example of this.
Yes, Swirl is built entirely on that zero ETL philosophy. It lets you search across all your different data repositories simultaneously, crucially, without moving or migrating any of that data. Your existing setup stays untouched.
Okay, that makes sense. So this naturally makes us ask, why didn't earlier AI search tools work that well? The idea of using AI for search isn't brand new, is it?
No, not at all. The promise of AI finding the right information has been there for a while. But many early solutions kind of fell short,
Why was that?
largely because they were still often built on top of that traditional ETL foundation. Even if the AI part was smart, it was still waiting for data fed through those slow, cumbersome ETL pipelines,
Ah, okay. So the AI was bottlenecked by the data prep process.
pretty much. And they ran into all the classic problems. Data silos, for one.
Right. Information stuck in email or SharePoint or Slack or a database.
Exactly. Getting a single unified search across all of that was incredibly difficult with ETL-based approaches.
You could maybe search one silo, but not everything together easily.
Correct. And then the security risks we talked about.
Yeah.
If your AI search tool needed data consolidated first.
You had that central honeypot problem again, moving data, creating risks.
Yep. Compliance issues, access control worries, it just added complexity. And, of course, the time and cost of those ETL pipelines themselves. Setting them up, maintaining them, keeping the data synchronized, especially at scale.
So as companies got more data, the ETL part just became a bigger and bigger headache for AI search.
It really did. Instead of simplifying search, it often added another layer of complex infrastructure to manage.
Okay, so zero ETL comes along as a completely different strategy. How does it specifically avoid those issues?
The fundamental difference is no data movement for the purpose of search. No extract, transform, load. No pre-processing pipelines just for the search tool.
So it directly searches the data where it lives,
Exactly. Across all the different platforms, in place, no bulk copying.
which immediately sounds like it tackles the setup time issue.
Massively. You can often get started in hours, not months, because you skip that whole ETL build-out.
Like security?
Better. If
Yeah.
the data stays in its original, presumably secure location, under its existing controls, you reduce that attack surface significantly.
And compliance is simpler too, I'd imagine.
Generally, yes. Plus, it allows the AI to work with near real-time data, cutting down the need for people to manually hunt through documents.
So faster, more secure, less hassle. Now let's talk more about Swirl AI Search. You said it embodies this zero ETL approach. How does it actually work under the hood?
Right, so Swirl is designed specifically not to require data movement or indexing into some separate system. It brings the AI analysis directly to your data sources.
No moving, no copying, no indexing. How does it connect to everything?
It has connectors, lots of them. We're talking over 100 different sources, databases, obviously,
Yeah.
but also things like PDFs, email systems like Outlook or Gmail, Slack, Teams, Zoom transcripts,
Wow.
Confluence, Tableau dashboards, cloud storage like Box, SharePoint, basically, where your work information might be.
So it taps into pretty much the whole digital workplace.
That's the goal. And crucially, when you run a search, Swirl queries those sources directly in real time. It doesn't need to first pull everything into, say, a vector database like many other AI tools do. It bypasses that step.
Okay, that avoids a whole layer of complexity and potential synchronization issues. What about keeping things secure if it's reaching into all these systems?
That's critical. Swirl is designed to hook into your existing enterprise security. It respects your single sign-on, your role-based access controls, even things like zero trust policies. Meaning you only see results from data sources and documents that you already have permission to access in the original system.
Yeah.
It enforces existing permissions.
Okay, that's hugely important. You don't want search opening up data it shouldn't. And how does it generate relevant answers without that pre-processed index?
It uses a technique called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG.
Right. Okay.
So when you ask a question, Swirl searches across the connected sources to find the most relevant snippets of information, the retrieval part.
Right.
Then it uses AI, the generation part, to synthesize those snippets into a coherent, concise answer grounded in your actual data.
So it finds the evidence first, then writes the summary.
Exactly.
Oh.
Which makes the answers much more reliable and reduces the risk of the AI just making things up, what people call hallucinations. The answers are based on your specific documents and data.
That sounds much more trustworthy for business use.
Okay.
This sounds great in theory. Do we have examples of it working in practice? Real results?
We do. There's a case of analysts at a Fortune 500 company. They were spending like 7 to 9 hours per week just searching for information.
That's almost a full workday.
Right. After implementing Swirl, that search time dropped to under 2 hours per week.
Huge productivity boost.
Massive. Another example. A large university had information spread across over 500 different potential sources. Imagine trying to find something.
Impossible, basically.
Pretty much. Swirl gave them a single search interface that could query all those sources without moving any data, making information much more accessible for students and staff.
That really opens things up. Any others?
Yeah, one more. A commercial leasing company. They had thousands of contracts, and extracting key details was slow, manual, and prone to errors.
I can imagine. Nightmare.
With Swirl, they could quickly pull specific clauses or data points directly from the contracts, again, without moving them. Saved tons of time, reduced errors.
These examples really drive home the point, don't they? It connects back to that initial frustration we talked about, information being there but unreachable. Zero ETL seems to actually bridge that gap.
It really does. Traditional ETL-based AI search is just too slow, too costly, too risky for many modern needs. Zero ETL AI search, like Swirl demonstrates, offers a way that's faster, safer, more scalable, because it works without that whole data migration headache.
So the core message seems to be, stop trying to force your data into old processes. Bring the AI to the data instead.
Precisely. Why spend all that time, money, and effort on complex ETL pipelines that add their own problems? Zero ETL is about a smarter, more direct path to leveraging your organization's knowledge.
Okay, so wrapping this up, the big takeaway really feels like zero ETL AI search, with Swirl being a prime example, offers a fundamentally better approach for internal knowledge discovery. No ETL complexity, no data movement hassles, just faster, more secure access using AI.
Which leads to a pretty interesting thought for you, the listener, to consider. Think about how much time and how many resources your own organization might be spending just managing data pipelines, just trying to get data ready.
What could you achieve if that burden was gone? What if you had near-instant secure access to pretty much all your organization's collective information? How might that change how you work, how your team innovates?
Definitely something to mull over. And if this has piqued your interest, it's probably worth looking more into this concept of zero ETL AI search and seeing what solutions are out there pushing this forward.